guys, and welcome back to the cookie jar. Today we are doing the fourth recipe out of the Blueberry Muffin Murder. They are called the Little Snowballs. It looks like a really quick throw together cookie. We are preheating the oven to 350, and what you're going to need is 1.5 cups melted butter, 3 sticks, 3/4 pound, 3/4 cup of powdered sugar, that's confectioner's sugar, 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, freshly ground is best, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 3 1/2 cups flour, no need to sift, and 1 cup finely chopped nuts. It says Mother likes these with chopped walnuts. Andrea prefers pecans. I think they're best with hazelnuts. Tracy adores these when I substitute a cup of flaked coconut for the nuts and form the dough balls around a small piece of milk chocolate bar or a couple of milk chocolate chips. Other than that, there's nothing really else on this recipe. Other than I will say I was reading through it and there is a part in the recipe list that says once they're baked, you roll them in powdered sugar again, but it doesn't give a measurement for that amount of powdered sugar. I just set out like a 1/2 cup, and I guess we'll see if that's enough or if it's too much. One last thing before we get into the kitchen is you're using ungreased baking sheets for this. So I don't know what difference that'll make, but it does say ungreased baking sheets. So everything's laid out in the kitchen. Let's get in there and get started. So here's everything all measured out. Plus I put this little bit here of powdered sugar to roll them in later. So we have our melted butter, our 3 sticks. And to this we're adding a 3/4 cup of powdered sugar. We're adding the 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla, the 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. And no, I did not use freshly ground because in all honesty, I don't ever think I've ever seen an actual nutmeg in the stores. So I just used the stuff that comes out of the little containers and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And we're just going to get this mixed up. Next thing we're going to add is our 3 1/2 cups of flour. And then it says to stir in the nuts. And yes, there are no eggs in this recipe. And that kind of threw me off at first. Like, I think I triple checked the fact that there were not eggs and I was not missing something. When I heard the name Little Snowballs, for some reason I was thinking they were going to be like those little Italian wedding cookies. But mixing this up, because I think I have made those before, this doesn't seem to be quite the same. All right, and then of course our 1 cup of chopped nuts goes in next. I think this might have been easier to add in before we added the flour, because now it's almost pastish. It's like a chilled it's like a chilled sugar cookie dough now in feel and look. Not very easy to stir stuff into it. So this is our dough. This is what we're at. So we've got our dough on our tray, and remember it's ungreased. So I'm just gonna scoop some up and level it off. That's what we got. And then I'm just going to plop it down because it's very dry. I would almost say to the point of being crumbly. So yeah, I think for these ones, the scooper might work for getting a good measurement, but I don't think it's going to really work to get a good shape. So you're still going to have to roll them with the scooper. Here's the first batch. Now, when these come out of the oven, they'll get 2 minutes to cool and then rolled in powdered sugar. And then when they're cool the whole way, you'll roll them in powdered sugar again. But for now, we're just gonna finish scooping everything up I'll give you a final count and then we'll bake them off at 350 for 10 minutes. All right, so here is our final count. We got 48, that's 4 dozen. Okay, so they took 10 minutes in the oven and they've been out for 2 minutes. It says to just roll them in the powdered sugar. They are still very warm. I don't know if you're supposed to shake off the excess or not, but kind of hard because they're getting very sticky. And remember, they're going back in a second time once they're completely cooled off. I am thinking I'm gonna need more than a half a cup of powdered sugar to do this though. Okay, so it's been probably 10 minutes since I took the last batch out. The last thing we have to do is we're supposed to roll them again in powdered sugar and then they'll be done. Now these are cooled off so it's not melting the powdered sugar. So I'm hoping they won't be as, not necessarily as sticky. I think tacky would be a better word for it. They're definitely looking more like snowballs after the second coat. And as far as powdered sugar goes, I think you're using closer to 2.5 to 3 cups of this with the actual amount in the recipe, because you're definitely using a lot more to coat them twice than you did in the recipe. It is taking longer to powder these than it did to actually make them, it feels like. So here are all the cookies. Finally, 2 coats. Very messy to make. So here is the little snowball. The nutmeg is strong. They're very dry. I feel like they'd be like a tea cookie. I think the only time I would eat something like this is around Christmas with how strong the nutmeg is. They have a good flavor. They weren't terribly hard to throw together. The longest part was doing 2 coats of the sugar, which was super messy and I didn't like at all. Around the holidays, they could be considered festive, but I don't really see... They're a cute little cookie. Something you could even do with the kids. Have them help you out with the coats of powdered sugar. I think they, you know, enjoy that. So the next recipe in this book is actually not a dessert. It's a grilled cream cheese sandwich. I think I'm gonna skip the food portions of the recipes and just stick to the dessert. So the next actual recipe that's baking is Lisa's White Chocolate Supremes. It's actually, I think, the 7th recipe in the book. So that's what I'll be making next week if you're interested. Bye, guys.